Deep in the forests of North America, a creature is said to exist. A creature that people are encountering.
Seriously, look how big it is.
With far too many reports to ignore, there are elements of truth behind these accounts that mankind can no longer
It's
ignore.
created almost this obsession where I need to find out
Could the
more.
breeding population of large, upright, hairy hominids really exist in North America? Or is there something more paranormal at work here? DD Woods. If just one footprint, one wood knock, or one howl was real, then man's understanding of primate evolution would be changed forever. Join Glenn Purcell and the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective as they delve further into the mysteries of Bigfoot and other paranormal phenomena through the eyes of witnesses, investigators, critics, and skeptics. Join us as we look to discover what lurks from behind tall trees.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to From Behind Tall Trees, Season 3. This is Episode 2. I'm super excited. As I explained last week at the beginning of our show, this season we are going everywhere. We're not just going to stick with the Bigfoot phenomena. And tonight we're going to start off with talking about some Dogman encounters. And we have with us Brennan Daniels. He's going to be coming on in just a second. I do want to say this coming Saturday, you can catch me up at Psychic in the Valley in Gowanda, New York. So if you're up in that direction, stop on over. Hi. and visit me and say hi and tell me what you think of the show and here at the CARC. And lots of fun and exciting things coming up in the future. So let's get to our guest, Brennan. Hi, Brennan.
Hi, Gwen. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well, actually.
Fantastic. So I want to just dive right in. I know you have a house full of people, so I don't want to take up your whole evening.
You are good. I promise you. This is a normal day for me. So, yeah.
So tonight we're talking about Dogman. And I'm going to be completely honest and say that I don't know a whole lot. This is a subject that I've been wanting to get into and to research a little bit because I think, I don't know, I think it's kind of exciting. And I'm in Pennsylvania, which is right next to Ohio. They have a lot of Dogman encounters. So I'm like, this could be pretty interesting. So let's just start off with what is it?
Yeah. Sorry, this is short. The internet. I didn't hear the question you asked.
What exactly is it? What is I mean, as you can see, some of our guests that are commenting, they don't know a lot about Dogman either. So this is kind of like an educational thing for all of us. So what is it exactly?
Yeah. There really is no single definition. I know what I've encountered, and that's a flesh and blood animal. What a lot of other people have looked at what I've seen, and people have. I've heard a lot of people say that there's a supernatural or a paranormal element to them. That they're trans-dimensional creatures like Sasquatch. I really don't know, and actually, as I've accepted what I've seen, because it took me 44 years to do that. I've kind of just gotten to a point where I'm not concerned about where they came from or why they're here. Mainly, my biggest concern, I think, is to validate what other people have seen, because nothing has caused me as much cognitive dissonance as Dogman. I can say that entirely with a straight face. And when I thought this was tomorrow, would you care if I grabbed my beer?
No, go ahead. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Wow. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been recognized by a lot of people. Most of the Dogman researchers are quite a bit different than Bigfoot researchers. I think most Bigfoot researchers tend to consider them a flesh and blood animal with supernatural elements. I'd say most Dogman researchers believe they're a supernatural being with some properties. That's kind of the reverse of with Bigfoot overlap, but the cult quite a bit different.
Okay. Have you had what is your encounter? Have you had any encounters with the Dogman?
Yeah. Gwen, I'm so sorry. I only got about half the question. You said
have you had any encounters with the Dogman?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely not a conspiracy theorist. I believe attacked us on 9/11. I believe the world is round. I believe 80% of what I read in textbooks and in history books. So that, and I'm kind of I guess you would say, a total left brain thinker. So, I mean, a right brain thinker. And yeah, the cognitive dissonance I've experienced from encountering Dogman so many times made me into a place just within that I'm just now getting out of, where my only concern was Dogman and learning more about it. I had never heard of Dogman before I saw Dogman. I didn't know what I was seeing for years. And after a while, I just came to not even think about it when I was at my property, walking around the tree line. When I would see a Dogman walk to the edge of the woods tree line and walk away, it just, nothing to see here, was pretty much my attitude. And most of what's written about Dogman, people say they're evil. I've never encountered anything like that. I've never once had a Dogman get hostile with me or aggressive. Go ahead, Gwen. I'm sorry. I don't really know what I'm saying now. Go ahead.
I'm just listening. Yeah. So you've not ever had anything negative or hostile happen with you?
No.
Really interesting.
Almost every time you see a Dogman, in terms of a piece of work someone's drawn, they're on two legs,
right,
and standing bipedally. I've only seen a Dogman stand bipedally 2-3 times maximum.
Oh, wow.
Every other time they were on all fours. And the 2 times that I did see them stand up bipedally was the first time I ever saw one, and they were just startled and didn't know what was going on. That was, if you want, I'll give you the backstory on that one.
Sure.
And on another occasion, they looked through a window, and the reason for standing up is so that the roof aggression. Yeah, I'm sorry. This keeps cutting out, in and out.
No,
did you ask me anything?
let's see here. I'm trying to look at what, if anybody has any questions for Brennan, please put them in the comment section in all capital letters. That way we'll catch everybody. David Lester is asking where you research and have you seen it, but you already covered haven't seen it. Do you?
Oh, okay. Yes, David. I live about 100. I live about an hour and a half east of Memphis, an hour and a half west of Nashville, and an hour and a half south of LBL. I'm in rural West Tennessee, and I've seen it almost every time, save once. Maybe twice. The other time, I'm not entirely sure about. Every time, save once, it's been at my parents' property that I inherited in West Tennessee, a little town called Huntingdon, which is where I described earlier geographically. It's a very agrarian place. Yeah, I don't see any more questions.
No. So did that initial, you said you saw it quite a long time and it took you quite a long time to like rationalize what it was that you saw. When did you decide to start researching?
Right. Basically, it was during COVID. Long story short, during COVID, I broke up with my girlfriend and I got tired of being in Nashville during the lockdown. And I could work from home. We were all working from home rather than going to our offices. And I just said to heck with it, moved back home to the place that I inherited. And I saw them almost daily there for a period of about a month. And every time they were going down this trail from behind my parents' house to over across the street where there's a creek, there's a really large pond, and not even a square mile from where I live, there's the Obion River. And the Obion River is a contributary to the Mississippi and Tennessee rivers. So I'm 99% that's where they were going when they went to the river. And I saw them so many times and in such detail and at such a close distance that I just couldn't pretend it wasn't happening anymore.
Right.
And I began researching just all the time. And I would say in the past few months, I haven't researched a lot because I've pretty much come to a place where I know what I've seen. I'm not going to let it affect my worldview. I just accept that the universe is not exactly the way it was. That none of us know all things. So whatever our mental construct for the universe is, be a little flexible on that because we never know all things. And I don't know where they came from. I'm not concerning myself whether they're from another planet or whether they're an ancient species or whether they're transdimensional, because those are most of the conversations you hear people have on social media. And for the life of me, I really don't see that it's productive.
No, I have to agree.
Because my main concern was, am I really seeing them? Because I've never hallucinated unless I was under the influence of LSD or psilocybin in my entire life. And I kept seeing this entity and multiple entities. They were animals, not one animal, on my parents' property. And eventually, like I said earlier, I had to acknowledge I was really seeing that. And that's when I began my research. And sorry, my cat's walking. No. Come here. Sit down, Hardy. And yeah, for a couple of years, I just spent all my time researching Dogman. And now I'm not fixating it on it as much because, well, if you've spent any time in the cryptid community or the paranormal community, you will know that it becomes completely consuming. Your other interests, like your job or your family or your kids, they start to take a back seat. And I'm not having that. So
Right.
I'm just gonna, I know what I've seen. I'll talk to anybody about it. I'll be one who needs to do it, but no longer am I going to just put all my energy into trying to learn about something that I'm probably not going to know that much more about than I do now.
Right, right. So we have a question. They wanted to ask what the size comparison, in your opinion, between a Dogman and a Bigfoot. Like, what kind of size comparison is the difference?
Okay. Okay. Roughly, they're about the same height. And as I stated earlier, I've only had a Dogman stand up in front of me a couple of times. Once was when I was 12 and squirrel hunting with my dad, and we saw them, and it was at such a distance, and that was 35 years ago. So
right.
I really can't judge off of that. And the second time, they squatted down to look through the window. So they were easily taller than what they seemed to be, which would have been about 6'7", because I've measured doors to see how high that would have been up. Dogmen have legs that are about 3 or 4 feet. Their bodies, believe it or not, their torsos, abdomen, shoulder, all that is not that long. I don't know how tall a Bigfoot is supposed to be, because the only time I've ever seen a Bigfoot, oh hell, my cat's clawing me. All right, sorry. The only time I've seen a Bigfoot, it was on all. Welcome back, Gwen. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. So we were saying that the only time you've ever seen a Bigfoot, he was, and then you cut out.
The only time I've ever seen a Sasquatch, it was on all fours doing a spider crawl. So I can't speak to how tall a Sasquatch is. I would say that a Dogman, based on the length of its body and the length of its legs and arms, when they're walking bipedally or standing on just their feet, I would say somewhere between 7 and 9 feet.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
Other
impressive.
people typically propose between 6 feet and 12 feet, but based on just what I've seen, between 7 and 9.
Now, somebody here also asked, have you seen any tracks or any questionable evidence like scrapes or kills or... There we go.
Pretty much, yeah, for sure. I've seen footprints. And an interesting thing about my parents, I've seen footprints. An interesting thing about my parents' property is that you virtually never see deer tracks around the perimeter of it. When I was younger, we had squirrels and rabbits, but not as I've aged. Dogmen don't really do tree structures like Sasquatch does, but I've seen Dogmen tend to do very primitive structures. They might throw up a nail or something like that. I've seen that. But in general, Dogmen, they are entirely different than Sasquatch. I think the some overlap. There's obviously between Sasquatch and Dogman, but in general, what applies to one doesn't necessarily apply to the other.
Okay.
Their tree structures are much more primitive. I've got pictures of my property, which I think you've seen, Gwen.
Yep, I think we have them
of
on
tree structures and Dogman
yeah.
and
Yep.
yeah.
Let's pull up the first
Okay,
photo.
tribal trees even. There's actually
and then
okay.
You can explain to us what we're looking at. Here we go. Here's the first picture. Yeah. What is it that we're looking at?
We are looking at a Dogman. That I did not take. Admittedly, I didn't take the picture. A family friend did, but he's not coming back on our property unless we're there too. And that's not because we banned him because he was doing us a favor. It's because he doesn't want to.
Oh wow!
There, what you can see there are the ears. You can kind of make out the face and two of the arms. Another thing I find interesting about is even though what you can see there is entirely separate from the tree, you can't really see basically from its torso. Damn it, Harvey. Stop it. I'll play with you when I'm off. I'm sorry, I'm talking to my cat.
Oh, it's okay.
You don't really see from the midsection. You don't really see from the midsection down. I don't know if that's because of the cloaking that I don't know if that's from the cloaking that Sasquatch that Dogmen do, or if it's just concealed by the trees. But yeah, that's what you're looking at is a Dogman.
Okay. Let's look at the second.
And photo. I've seen that one, so I'm all right.
Yeah, we have several photos here. What's the second one?
Yeah.
Here we go. Is this like the tree structure you're talking about?
No, that is not a tree structure. That is something that's been on my property all my life that I'd never really paid attention to. A couple of months ago, another Dogman Bigfoot researcher was on my property with me, and we were just walking around, and he saw that, and he was just stunned. And I was like, "What are you freaking out about, dude?" And he was like, "I'm not freaking out over anything. It's like, dude, you've got an Indian tribal marker tree on your property." And I'm
wow.
like, "Really?" And he was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's exactly what that is. The only problem is I'd seen it since I was a kid, so never thought anything about it. But the fact that there's a Cherokee tribal marker tree on my property kind of explains why I've seen some of the things I have."
Okay. Do you think there's a correlation between the Indian tribal and the
Absolutely.
Dogman? Okay.
Absolutely. I haven't been told by any Cherokee elders or anyone like that because Dogman is a sensitive topic with Indian tribes. They're not just talk to a non-native, and I'm a non-indigenous person. I'm of European descent. But a few tribal members here and there that I do talk to and have really cordial relations with have said that that is for water. Granted, that doesn't mean that that's what the marker tree is for, but it still carries a little more weight. If you were a tree that the Cherokee used to mark hunting ground or water, we don't know what it is. We just know that that doesn't occur in nature.
Right. Very interesting. We do have another. Yeah. I think we have several photos. Okay,
awesome.
Here's.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. That is an X. That is some kind of mark that Dogmen typically use for. I'm not really sure. Sometimes you'll see a trail, but again, on my property we don't have any deer. That's because there's a super predator that walks across our property. But you will see stuff like that in front of where deer tracks or deer trails are sometimes, and I don't know what it means to dogmen, but yes, that's the kind of thing you see when dogmen are around. Now that, notice that looks a little different from what a Sasquatch does, but one thing Sasquatches and dogmen both tend to do is to bend the bottom tree. If you can see what I'm talking about, they kind of do that arch. You see that pretty frequently where there's a Sasquatch or a dogman.
Okay. Very interesting. That's very interesting. I would not have known that they did the same thing.
Yeah.
As the Sasquatch. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. One way to, like I said earlier, one of the ways to differentiate it is Sasquatches will do elaborate things with tree structures. With dogman, it's usually a lot more primitive, like the one you just saw.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So if you're not having like a trail of deer, what are you supposing that they're eating?
Well, I live literally out in the, I'll give you my address if you want to do a Google Earth search. You can see what I'm talking about, how heavily wooded the area is. Just don't post my address, is all I ask. On where my parents' property is, it covers several acres. There's not any deer walking on it. But if you go into the woods where my parents' property converges with other properties, you will see deer trails nearby. It's just on my parents' property. Yeah, within the same system of woods. I don't know really. Within the same woods, you'll find lots of deer, but not on my property. They never come on my property.
Wow.
And which I find that to be really interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost
keep
like they're
safe
avoiding
distance.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
Very interesting. So what do you suppose that they're eating? Are they eating deer?
Thank you. Yes, they eat. Well, dogmen tend to be omnivores. They probably eat more vegetation and roots and berries and things like that than they're omnivores, but yes, they definitely eat deer. They eat plants and fruits out of gardens. But yeah, and on the trail that I was telling you about earlier, there's a really small farm. The lady who's my neighbor, her small farm cuts into my property. So not infrequently they're going to that farm to eat crops and stuff.
Interesting. Very interesting. We have two more photos. Yeah. Let's pull up the first one.
Oh, they're my photos. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here we go. Is this another X structure like you're talking about?
Yes. Yes. Okay, if you notice there is a pretty well cleared path where animals have crossed that. Not infrequently, you will see that X in front of one of the trails. And this is one, I don't know what the reason is. Other researchers have told me that they behind and on deer. It's kind of, look, here's a trail. This is kind of the marker. But again, I don't know that that's true, but that's kind of what the consensus is of some researchers.
Okay. And let's take a look at the last one, the last photo we have.
Okay.
As soon as it gets pulled up here. Here we go. This looks like a close-up of the first photo.
Yes. Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what it is. It's a little pixelated, but you can still see the face, and you can definitely see the ears now with it
Okay.
enlarged. Yeah.
Now this one looks to be all
You
black.
can see traces of the arm.
Right.
Yes, they come in a variety of structures. I mean, colors. The main colors I've seen are tan, brown, black, and my cat is driving me nuts. Yeah, tan, brown, black, and gray are typically the colors you will see on a Dogman. There are white Dogmen, but I've never personally seen one.
Interesting. That's very
Yeah.
interesting. We have a question from David again, who was asking if any other local residents have reported any strange sightings or sounds. I imagine they howl.
That
Do they howl at
I've heard
all?
a lot. Yes, they do. One thing a lot of my neighbors have talked about hearing are cougar howls and
Oh,
or a cougar scream. They don't sound that dissimilar. But the interesting thing about that is cougars have in recent years made their way back to Tennessee, but for years they weren't here. And they make a very similar sound. And cougars are not seen commonly in Tennessee, but cougars have a huge range, so they do come our way sometimes.
right.
But yes, there's been reports of black panthers and cougars where we live forever, and I think that's because if you see, for one thing, your brain doesn't have a mental construct of a dog man at all. But even if you do, you kind of picture a werewolf or a dog on both
Right.
feet, and almost all their time on all fours, especially if the dog man is not that aggressive. And the dog man I've encountered are not at all. They're just disinterested. They vary from disinterested to just curious, but they never bother us. They almost always stay inside the tree line. So if you see a dog man walking around on all fours, it's a lot easier to tell your neighbor, "Hey, I saw a black panther," or "Real the big walking around by the tree line." It's a lot easier and a lot more socially acceptable to say you saw a cryptid large black cat than it is. And even
Then it
then,
is.
if you see a dog man on all fours, it doesn't. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's probably a lot
Sorry, man.
easier
What'd you
than having
ask
your
or say?
neighbors look at you like you're crazy.
That's exactly it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, monsters aren't supposed to exist, and I started seeing these things when I was just hell. I wasn't even a teenager yet. It took me a bachelor's degree, a doctorate, years in the workplace, and having to see them all the time before I ever acknowledged that I was really seeing what I thought I was seeing. So yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot easier to say you saw a black panther or a cougar than it is a dog man.
Now, you say you've seen them a lot
And
on
I
all
hear people
fours.
talk about cryptids, and they say, "Go ahead." Yeah,
You've
yeah,
said you've seen these walking around on all fours.
yeah. I've seen them a lot
How
on
in
all fours.
relation how in relation are they to like a wolf? Are they bigger? Like when they're on all fours, are they
They
bigger?
are much bigger than a wolf.
Okay.
A wolf's legs are what a foot and a half to about 2 feet tall.
Okay.
Double that for a dog man.
Oh,
And
wow.
the
Okay.
dog men I've seen have head or a timber wolf, but they are enormous in comparison to the head of a coyote or a wolf or that.
Interesting. Hmm. So we have a question. What's the creepiest Dogman encounter that you've ever heard from a witness?
Yeah,
I'm sure you've heard
I'd
some
say
crazy
bar none,
stories.
the creepiest encounter man witness that I absolutely believe and is not questionable was a kid was walking her dog, and they were going through a corn. For kids who live out in the country, that's what. And anyway, the dog ran up was another dog. It was not. It was a dog man on all fours, and started getting a little bit dog man and was trying to get it off, but wasn't particularly bad up. Shoot, get away from me, dog. Just get away. And the girl tried to pull her other dog, and instead she wound up scratching the dog man, and the worst cuts on her you can imagine at that point, because at that point the dog man kind of interpreted it as something different than some. I guess it thought that a girl and its dog were attacking it. The little girl went to the hospital, and she's got pretty bad scars now.
Oh my
I would
gosh.
say that's the creepiest one that's confirmable. Other stories people have told me really don't have a lot of credibility, where a dog man was just going out of its way to attack somebody, or going out of its way to cause trouble for someone. That was just a misunderstanding base. I've heard have been crazier, but I'm not inclined to believe them.
They wanted to know, did she leave a report? Did she
So
have to
yeah,
report
that's
it to the hospital?
the scariest dog man encounter I've ever heard.
When she was at the hospital,
She
did she?
it said in the hospital report that she was I it was attacked by a wild dog, and honestly, that's what they thought it was at the time. It wasn't until they encountered it and had eye sightings later on they realized that wasn't a wild dog or dealing with.
How many reports do you get that they claim that it's aggressive? I mean, I would think it's kind of like a Bigfoot. People, I have yet to find a report where a Bigfoot attacked someone. I mean, intimidate someone, try to get someone to leave its area, yes, but actually
Yeah,
physically attack someone. So, do you get a lot of those kind of reports that somebody claims they've been attacked?
yeah, they come up here and there. You get them not infrequently, and those are typically the least credible ones. And I think one of the reasons that people don't hear about Dogman and that most people haven't heard of them is I saw Dogman dozens of times before I admitted it to myself, much less to another person.
Mhm.
Given that in my experiences, Dogmen are pretty docile unless they feel provoked. People aren't going to harm is a something that looked like a canine but had almost human arms and had almost raccoon hands and stood up on its hind. Nobody's going to tell that if they don't have to. If they have to, they're going to say it's a wild dog or something else because, yeah, I mean, Dog Man, looking at it from the outside, is one of the craziest things I've ever heard. It defies science, it defies evolution, it defies common sense, it defies everything. And I'm not doing, like I said earlier, I'm not actually in a Dogman organization right now because it was taking up way too. But
Mm.
that was the thing that always bothered me the most about Dogman. It wasn't that the thing existed; it was because I wasn't afraid of the dog. It was, like I said, it defied everything I knew about biology, everything I knew about evolutionary paths, and it's other questions. It's like, do the authorities know they exist? How long have they been around? And that will cause a lot of cognitive dissonance in anyone.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe the government do you believe the government knows they exist?
I'm open to possibilities. I find it really, really hard to believe that there's some government conspiracy to keep the dogman species from being recognized, because that would require a hell of a lot of individual game and wildlife wardens of every local police department in every rural place, FBI, and there's no way that many people could keep something quiet. But I said at the same time, hard to believe that no one in the government is aware that Sasquatch or Dogman exists. And as I said earlier, I'm furthest thing you'll meet from a conspiracy theory. If you've got a conspiracy theory you want to tout, don't come to me about it, because I really don't want to hear it. But it's, good God, I mean, when I think about all that matter, but Sasquatch is a lot easier to explain from an evolutionary point of view than Dogman is. So there was just a lot of cognitive dissonance. And whenever I hear anybody say, well, I'd like for Sasquatch to exist, Dogman to exist, just like those people, that's not true. I didn't want to believe that I'd seen what I'd seen. It did not benefit me at all. What it did was it made me walk around thinking I was crazy, because I'd seen this entity, this animal that by every measure is not supposed to exist. So yeah, it took me decades to acknowledge, yep, no, I saw what I saw. And like I said, now I'm basically just at a place where I acknowledge anything possible. But I'm just going to focus on my job, my wife, my children, my cat who's driving me up the wall. Important things like that, rather than questions that never get answered.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. In your opinion, does Dogman maintain a breeding population in North America or somewhere else?
I believe that it has to maintain one in North America, because, I live in the upper South. I live in a region that's kind of the deep South, kind of mid-America, but is still pretty much in middle America. And given I've seen them since I was 12, and given that I've seen them in various ages, I mean, I think it would just stand normally it's not safe to assume, but I think on this one, we can pretty safely assume that if it's a flesh and blood animal, which I believe it to be, because I've never seen any supernatural elements from a dogman, I think, yes, it has to have a breeding population in North America.
Now, when you've seen them, do you think you've seen the same one on multiple occasions, or do you think you've seen different ones?
Maybe there's one that I keep seeing. I think the family, the tribe, actually, I guess that's actually what you would call a group of dogmen, would be a congress. That's what you call a group of baboons. I've seen different ones. Even gave her a name. I call her Sammy. She was the first one I've ever seen, and I've seen her, and that was over 30 years ago. And I've either seen her or her offspring, because they look just alike, in the last couple of years. So yeah, I've seen various Dogman, and yes, like to your point, there's mainly one I keep seeing over and over. I call her Sammy, and one of the reasons why I don't tell people where I live is I wouldn't want anybody to go hunt Sammy. I mean,
Yeah.
she's never bothered me, and I've seen her for well over 3 decades. So let Sammy be.
That leads me to ask if
Okay.
how many, like, if you think they're breeding and you've seen the same one for the last 30 years, I'm just going off of like a
Right.
wolf. If a wolf has pups, she usually has 4, 5, 6 maybe. So over the course
Yes.
of 30 years, you'd think there'd be like an overrun of dogmen if she's having the same amount of pups.
Glad you asked that. I'm really glad you asked that, because I personally do not believe that Dogman is a canine. I say that sometimes. I say that's a really big, looks like a really big canine, because it does. Honestly, the animal that a Dogman on all fours looks the closest like is a baboon. And if you see a picture of a Gigantopithecus, Gigantopitheci, I guess that would be plural for a Gigantopithecus. No, a Dinopithecus. I'm supposed to cursor to modern baboon. They are about the same size as a Dogman, and they look a lot like a Dogman. And baboons tend to have between 1 and 3 children. So yes, to your point, if they were putting out litters of puppies, there, I mean, dogs will have like 8 to 12 puppies. You'd be overran by them. But having said that, there are a lot more dogmen than any. They pretty much hide in plain sight, and the reason they've survived, if they are a flesh and blood animal, is because of their ability to be stealthy. So I don't think it would be completely inconceivable, if it's a canine rather than a primate, that it would have large litters. And like in the animal kingdom, if you have 12 puppies, not all are going to survive.
Right.
Penner's care or in a veterinarian's care. So yeah, I mean, it would just be survival of the fittest. Not all of the litter would survive, but even if the majority did, or all of them did, as good as they are at being stealthy and at cloaking like Sasquatch is, I don't think it would be outside the realm of possibility for them to be just that good at staying hid, because new species get discovered all the time, and species that we believed were extinct are actually alive, and oftentimes there's large healthy populations. I mentioned earlier that cougars have made their way back to Tennessee, but I've only seen one cougar in my entire life. And for people who live in places like Pennsylvania where you have black bears, there are black bears galore. And I guarantee you've been close to black bears before and didn't know it. And how many times are you out hiking or just walking in the woods or driving down the road and you see a black bear to begin with? So, hey, what you asked earlier, that's entirely possible. But I don't think dogmen are actually canine. I think they are actually primates. But if they've evolved in North America, regardless of where they came from, as they evolve, they're going to have the characteristics of other animals in North America. What's that called in biology? Convergent evolution, divergent evolution, or convergent? I don't remember. So
I think, again, this is the kind of stuff that if you do dogman research and you spend way too much of your time fixating on, go crazy because there are no answers. Cryptozoology, regardless of what we like to believe, is not a hard science. Arguably, it's not a science at all because by its very nature, it can't follow the scientific method.
Right.
All we can do is basically look at the data we have and try to infer something from that. It's not like we can repeat experiments or lab studies or anything like that. So anything is possible when it comes to Dogman. That would be my answer.
Perfect. Does anybody have any other questions for Brennan? I'm not seeing any more questions in there. Let's see here. Nope, I don't see any more questions.
All right.
Well, I appreciate you coming with us. We're just at the hour, and I don't want to keep you from your family because I know your cat's really wanting to play with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, and tell your part. I guess he. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gwen.
It was a very interesting conversation because, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm not super familiar with Dogman at all. It's something that comes up now and then in my Bigfoot research, and I'm always like, we should really start looking into that to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to talk to you and get that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and tell your friend who came on about the same time you did, who asked me if I could set up, that I wasn't trying to be rude earlier when I said, no, this is about the best I can do with the second. That, I wasn't being ornery. It was just hard for me to sit where I am.
You're all good. You're good.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Okay. There's one more question. How does one reach out to report a Dogman encounter? Do you have some way of somebody reaching you?
Yes. You can email me. You can do that at Brennan. That's BRENNAN NADP. Brennan NADP @gmail.com. Or you can go to the North American Dog Project's website. Is it? So I don't tell you wrong. Okay, that's just straight up spelled out exactly as it sounds. Nothing special, no underscores, no anything. North American Dogman Project. If you go there, there's links and ways you can report to the North American Dogman Project if you had an encounter.
Interesting.
But yeah,
do they have a database on there that you can pick out?
Yes, they do. They have a database of every Dogman encounter that's been reported in North America. And they have been reported literally in every state. Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Brennan. It was wonderful meeting you. And I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Nice meeting you as well.
Yes. Very nice.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. You have a good night.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you for the great questions. It was a very interesting show. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Don't forget.
Thank you. That's all, folks. I'm sorry, you cut out, man.
It's all right.
You cut out for a minute.
I just wanted to have everybody see the This Week in Bigfoot that airs on Friday night at 7. Brendan's working very hard to put that together. On. It's going to be a good show.
All right, cool. Have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
This has been a CARC Universal production.